If I asked you, what do you do for yourself every week and you struggle to answer, what does that say? And if your diary is full of work and school runs and other people's needs, but nothing with your name on it, what does that mean? So, in today's episode of the Wellness Shift podcast, I will be talking about self-worth and self-care and why that matters more than you think. Hi, I'm Bruno de Jong. I am the owner of CBR Clinics and I run the Wellness Shift podcast. At CBR Clinics, we see a lot of clients every week for physiotherapy and wellness services. And on the Wellness Shift podcast, we tend to talk about stories about our clients, obviously without disclosing any names, but we interview people, some of our therapists, some of our providers, some of our clients we interview, just to bring you some insights and try to show you why you should prioritize your health today, not tomorrow.
This episode is sponsored by Mousetrapper, one of the lead ergonomic mouse companies in Europe. Most of us spend hours at a computer, often in static positions our bodies aren't built for. That's why so many people feel pain in the neck, shoulders, and arms, often caused by one simple thing: reaching out to the side for a traditional mouse. Mousetrapper solves this by placing the mouse centrally in front of the keyboard. This keeps your arms closed, your shoulders aligned, and your posture neutral, reducing the muscle strain that leads to repetitive injuries. Instead of moving a mouse across the desk, you control everything with the mesh-like control pad or smooth carbon fiber roller bar. Both allow precise, low-effort movement using small, relaxed motions, which is exactly what good ergonomics encourages. They design and manufacture Mousetrapper in Sweden with a focus on long product life and sustainability. Durable products mean less waste and fewer replacements over time. If you never tried a center mouse before, the difference is immediate. That's why they offer a free 14-day trial so you can feel the improvement for yourself. Fight the pain, support healthy posture, experience Mousetrapper.
So let's get started with it. A few months ago, I saw a client that triggered this whole episode, which was she had some neck pain and a lot of tension here. And then when I assessed her, there was nothing. There was no pain on the arms. There was no restriction on the neck. There was nothing. And I was like, that's a bit strange. So, and then I started asking some questions. Well, I've asked some questions before, but then I asked some further questions. And I asked, so are you stressed at work? And she said, yeah, there's a lot of work. I'm stressed. I'm like, okay. And so what do you do on your free time? What do you do? What do you do for yourself? And she was like, what do you mean? She had this sort of puzzled look. And I said, well, you get home from work and then you have a shower and then you have some dinner. What do you do after that? And then she was like, oh, no, I just go to bed because it's too late. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like 9, 10 p.m. She was like, yeah. And then I just go to bed. I was like, oh, okay. And then the next day, what happens is she said, well, I just wake up and I go to work. I was like, all right. And then the next day, she was like, yeah, no, just the same. Like, all right. Well, what about you? What about things for you? She was like, what do you mean? Well, do you read any books or do you make some time for yourself to do some exercise or to just ponder? And she was like, oh, no, nobody's ever asked me that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, why is that? She was like, no, I don't know. And then I said, well, you need to look after yourself because what I'm finding here in clinic is that there's nothing in terms of you've got symptoms, but there's nothing physical apparently that is triggering that. So I think it's stress because you're probably working too much. It sounds like all you do is go to work, but you're not looking after yourself. Well, I think she started crying very quickly after I said those things. And she's like, I can't believe I never thought about this before. And we're talking here about someone who's, in their late 20s. And it just made me think, oh my God, how long has this been going on for? And this was such a perfect example for me of how injuries or just pain, a lot of the time is not just a physical thing, that there's more to it. And a lot of the time, stress is the main culprit of it. And in your subconscious will be driving that, right? And you will have your subconscious in people like that, their subconscious will have decided that they don't matter. That what matters is getting the job done, making other people happy. And like in this case of this lady, it was a little bit extreme that she hadn't even considered thinking about herself. But a lot of us, we do that in a much more subtle way, where we go to work and we look after, our children, we do the school runs, but then we're quite stressed often. And then all we do when we have that free time is we go on our devices and get distracted, and we'll spend hours on our devices. We'll binge on Netflix. We'll watch every single show on Netflix. We will go through every single Instagram post and just keep flicking, and hours will pass by, and then we'll go to sleep. And then the next day is the same. So the free time that we have these days is we dedicate to screens, we dedicate to devices. But, and then you might say, oh, I'm just relaxing. Yeah, sure, you're relaxing, but that's not really helping you relax. You think it is, but what's that doing is give you some dopamine hits so you feel better about the day you've just had, or you feel better about being stuck in your life at the moment, or you feel better about just stress that you're going through, but you're not really looking after yourself. And looking after yourself is not, I'm going to have a bubble bath or I'm going to have a spa day. Yeah, sure. That is, you're treating yourself to a one-off thing, unless you decide that bubble baths will be a part of your routine every day. That's not really regular self-care thing. And what we're talking about here is that consistent healthcare, consistent self-care. So self-care is more about boundaries. So recently I've put some boundaries in place at work because my time is very precious and I need to make sure I have the right energy. I am in the right energy to deal with work or my family or my friends, because I don't want to show up lacking in energy, or I don't want to show up being grouchy. I don't want to show up feeling miserable, because that doesn't help anyone. If I go tend to my kids and I'm really exhausted and I'm tired and I'm grouchy, they're going to pick up on it. They're going to start misbehaving, and then it's only going to escalate. And if I go to work, into a work meeting, and I'm just feeling a bit, and it's just not going to have the right energy in the meeting, and it's just not going to go well. And whatever decisions you make in that mindset are not going to be the best decisions anyway. So recently, what I've done is after 4 p.m. every day, nobody can contact me. I'm unreachable unless the house is burning down, or someone at work has passed away, or the clinic's catching fire. They can contact me. And if one of those things are happening, they can contact me on my personal phone, but otherwise they can't. That's a boundary to protect my time, my personal time and my energy. Another boundary that I've put in place recently was when I check emails. Because the more emails I go through and the more replies I send, the more I'm going to get back. And there's nothing that urgent that needs me to be checking my emails and replying to emails every 5 to 10 minutes. So now I have put in place 2 times in the day when I check and reply to emails. Out of those times, I'm not allowed to check my emails. So that's boundaries. Then you've got saying no. Saying no is also a form of self-care, because when you say yes to someone, you are saying sometimes no to yourself. Whenever you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So when you are being asked to do stuff, and it could be at work, people are asking you, can you just stay behind and just make sure you finish this? You cannot leave until you finish this today, but you contracted until 5 or 6 o'clock, let's say, but you have to finish this, but it's 6 o'clock, you haven't finished it. So you're going to stay because they say you have to. It's boundaries. And some people will accept it and they will say, well, it's just the nature of the job. Or in my line of work, this is expected. I just have to do it. Okay. That if people accept those things as truths in their lives, this is what they're going to get back. That's the type of jobs they're going to get back because they just accept it. If you don't accept that, I can guarantee you can find a job that is probably just as good, will pay you just as much or more, and where they're going to respect your time. Because this lack of respect, just because you're getting more money, at least for me, it doesn't work, and I don't think it needs to be like that for all of us. So boundary is a form of self-care. Saying no is a form of self-care. Going to the gym, going to Pilates class regularly is a form of self-care. Doing yoga every day is a form of self-care, because by working on your body, by doing some physical activity, you release stress, you increase release of endorphins, which make you feel good, which is a great counter to dopamine, which can make you addicted. Endorphins can make you addicted, but it's a good addiction to have unless you out of control and you're going to the gym 2-3 times a day, which is hopefully is not happening or it's not going to happen. But it's a much healthier way of dealing with stress, or a much better habit. That's another thing that's self-care. So if you're not exercising at all, something to think about. One that is big for us as a physio business is booking a physio appointment before you're completely broken. So a lot of people, they inquire with us, or they're sort of shopping around and they're calling, they're asking prices, they're asking for information about certain treatments, and that leads to nowhere. And a lot of those people, they don't book anything and they leave you for another month or two until things get worse. A lot of people come to us when they're in really severe pain. What's happened often was I would see someone that would come in, and then, the pain is 8 out of 10, or maybe it's a 7 out of 10 because they're feeling a little bit better. But over the weekend, they spend the weekend lying on the floor because that was the only comfortable position. But before that, they had this back pain for months and months and months that they didn't do anything about it because they weren't going to the gym. They were just flicking through their phones. They had no boundaries. They were working like crazy. So by booking a physio appointment, or it could be an osteopath, or it could be a podiatrist, it could be a chiropractor, or it could be a massage. By seeing someone to check your body and work through your body, give you some exercises, some help before you're completely broken, is a form of self-care. It's a form of saying to yourself, I matter, I love myself, I matter, so I'm going to look after my body because I want to get one. And if I don't look after this body now, by the time I'm 70 or 80, I'm probably not going to be able to do stuff. Most people don't realize that. But the work you put in the 30s, 40s, and 50s is going to impact later down the line. So it's going to impact how you live the rest of your years. Because you're not going to die at 69 or 65 or 70. The advances in medicine are going to ensure that you live right to 90. Right to 90. They say, life expectancy has gone up. It's fantastic. But people live with chronic disease. That's what's going to happen. So by 60, when you're about to retire, I've got diabetes now. Oh shit. So I can't eat this, and that anymore. Okay, fine. Or I've got osteoporosis. So I have to be careful. I can't do, the sports I was doing before, or, well, they probably didn't do sports if they got osteoporosis, but they need to look, they might not be able to do some stuff, or they have to be careful. If they fall, they could break something really easily. So investing in your health through physio, exercise now, when you're 30, 40, 50, is the best investment you can make for your life, in your life. And if you're already on your 60, 70, and 80, and you already have some chronic disease, it's not too late. Sure, you might not be able to reverse some things, but there's still gains to be had there. And you could reverse some of your quality of life. So quality of life is down there. You can bring it up a little bit more so that you can start enjoying some of the things you used to do before or that you want to do now. Another way of self-care is going to bed on time. So a lot of people, they are falling asleep watching telly or on their phones, and then they'll fall asleep. And I've done this before. You fall asleep, and then you wake up and let's continue. And then you just go. You continue for another hour when you could be sleeping. Because if you're not sleeping, you are not restoring your body or not restoring your energy. How can you function the next day? It's only gonna add to the stress, right? And then people think, oh, but this is my me time. I'm just trying to get some me time. Plan it better then, but don't be on your phone or, falling asleep or just having late nights all the time, because it's going to catch up with you at some point. And another form of self-care is just taking 30 minutes for you alone with no guilt, because you matter. And what can you do in those 30 minutes? It could be anything. You're going to read a book. You're going to go do some exercise. You're going to catch up with your sleep. You're going to, I don't know, book that physio appointment, or you're going to meditate, whatever it is. But you could always get into a habit of looking at what your day looks ahead and planning some gaps. And this time is protected. It's mine. I'm going to catch up with whatever. I'm going to call my mom, have a call her for it. It's just planning a little bit. So having those 30 minutes in a day to do something guilt-free is a form of self-care. And then you decide what you do on those 30 minutes, something that is for you. So I, for instance, every morning before I start work, I have around 30 minutes, and I do a bit of a routine that I've been doing for a while, which is a bit of tapping, a bit of meditation, and that sets me up for my day. I know I'm going to have a good day if I do that. And if I don't do that, because life gets in the way sometimes, I might try and do it later. But I always try to do that because I know that's going to set me up. So think, how worthy do you feel of doing those things? Because people who don't prioritize themselves, they often overfunction for others. So they're doing things for everybody else but them. They tie their value to how productive they are at work. So how much they produce at work, how many deadlines they hit, they will tie their value to it. And by the way, just being busy for the sake of busy doesn't mean you're being productive. So sometimes people say, oh, I'm really busy. But are you really busy with what matters at work? Because procrastination is a big thing, right? And so often we'll pretend we're busy, looking into this that doesn't matter as much as that other big thing that you should be doing, really. And often these people who don't prioritize themselves, they always say, oh, I'll do that next week, or I'll do that later. They'll say something like that, but that later never comes. It's always just sort of there. Yeah, it's 19th of February today. I said I was going to start that first week of January. Still haven't done it. Just procrastinating and just not really doing it. So how this might show up in your body, because your body is keeping the score, right? And the body will keep the score of self-neglect. And it could show up as, like this lady, tension on the neck, tension on the jaw. So tight upper traps can lead to tightness on the neck. That can lead to tightness on the jaw. It could be one thing. It could be linked to many of those things. Headaches, believe it or not, there's a strong link between stress and headaches. And one of my friends, actually, she has at the moment, she lives, 2 weeks in one place, 2 weeks in another place. And then in one of the places she lives, the setting is not amazing. Whenever she's in that place, she's got headaches, migraines. But when she goes back to the other one, migraines are gone. So what is it about that place that is causing is stress? Yeah, or maybe there is something else. So there's some more. I don't think there's mold or anything like that, but potentially it's stress. And then it could also be poor recovery from training because you're stressed, you're not sleeping well, but you are training, you're exercising, you're eating the right things, but then you're not sleeping very well, you're really stressed. That can affect your recovery from training. And often when people have flare-ups, because people sometimes they live with this low intensity pain or discomfort, which is a 1 or 2. And then it flares up and it goes to a 7, 8. And then it goes down after a few days. And sometimes it keeps yo-yoing like that. And one of those times they will come to see us. And then often we can link that to a stressful time at work. And then the question is like, so do you relate every time this is happening at work? Do you feel like this? And often people go, yeah, I do actually. And then they make the link and hopefully, people act on it. So what does high self-worth look like in a behavior? So to start with, people will prioritize themselves a little more. So they'll still go to the gym even when they're really busy. And they protect time in their diary. And they invest in their health. So it might be that people will join a really expensive gym because they've got this and this and this, and they'll go and use it. And they'll make time for that. Or maybe they book a massage every week or once a month, but they're consistent. It's about that consistency in the habits that benefit you and no one else. And it doesn't mean you're selfish because you're doing that. It just means that you are putting time for you, and you are the most important person in your life. Your relationship with yourself is the most important in your life, because guess what? You're in it for the rest of your life with you. So you gotta prioritize you sometimes. Yeah, sometimes sure you want to do something for the other person, but as long as you have those moments where you do something for you, that's really, really important. And that can be life-changing if you actually stick to those habits. So it's about being consistent. It's about protecting time in your diary. And it's about being physical as well. So you gotta be physical, be doing some physical activity to protect your later years when muscle mass decline is huge. And if you haven't done anything for your life, the 60s, muscle mass decline is huge. So you gotta do something to protect you from not being able to do stuff that you want to do, and ending up in a wheelchair or being bedbound in the last 5. Imagine being bedbound on the last 5 years of your life. How do you think that will feel? And people don't think about that, but I think it's worth thinking about it. Because when you think about it, then it might help you make better decisions now. So lots to think about here. One final tip, which is something that I have been doing in the last couple of months. I have been planning my week ahead by going in my diary on a Sunday. So on a Sunday, I'll take an hour to just go in my diary and look at what my week looks like. And then I'll just plan it a little bit more. So it usually is already planned. I've got lots of things already planned there. But I still need to do a few things. So I might realize that actually I have this meeting on this time, so I won't be able to do my meditation in the morning. So I'm going to have to create some space for my meditation later. I might have to move things. So I take an hour to plan my week, whatever's missing in my week, and then I stick to that. And in that calendar, there is exercise, there is mindset work, there is meetings, there is childcare. All that stuff is in my diary. And that helps me to stay accountable. So I gotta follow my diary. And I'm accountable to myself there. And it helps me to build these habits that are so important so that I can live less stressful life and with more quality, feeling strong because I go to the gym and feeling accomplished because I've done everything I had to do on the day and I stuck to my diary. And sure, life is going to happen and things will creep up, and you're going to have to maybe slot things in your diary here and there. Sometimes that happens because it just happens. But failing to plan is planning to fail. So unless you plan, then it's going to be very hard to accomplish things. I hope some of this rang a bell, and I hope some of this has created a spark of curiosity in yourself as to why things are the way they are for you, and why do I have this pain, and why I don't feel great about myself. And it might be because you're neglecting yourself, and it might be because you're not doing a lot of these things. And it might be you probably don't need to do all of these things now, but I'll probably encourage you to pick the one thing that you could do in the next week and just try to be consistent with that one thing. And once you're consistent with that one thing, add another thing. And then you're consistent with the two things. And then add the third thing. And slowly you build habits like that. There's a really good book, I can't remember the author now, but it's called Atomic Habits, that I got reminded of last week. I put a link in the description if you guys want to read that. That book might be inspiring for you. And if this, I hope, like I said, I hope this helped somehow to everybody listening. And if you did enjoy, please like and subscribe to our channel, or just send this to someone who you think might need. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.